Hello guys, welcome back to another Maker Monday here at the Jessamine County Public Library. Today we are going to be talking about Simplify 3D. Now this is the program that we can take our 3D files and apply some settings to tell the file how to print out. So overall it is a pretty simple program and it is relatively easy to go from the initial 3D file to then something that we can send out to the printer. So our first step that we'll want to do is go up to the top left hand corner. You can see right here, this would be where any of our models would appear. Now you can see here in the center, we don't have anything loaded up, but we can go ahead and load something right now. So I'll go to this import button, and then we can find a file. So something like this. So as you can see, as I'm clicking my mouse, I can drag the screen around, look at it from different angles. And that looks pretty good right there. So the first thing I want to do is work with any scaling, rotation, and positioning. So to access that menu, I'm going to double click on the file. And you can see it pulls up this menu over here on the right hand side. So there's settings for position, which typically I don't use a whole lot. Sometimes it is helpful to drop the Z offset, but typically the ones that you're mostly going to work with would be the scaling. Of course, if you need it to be smaller, you can scale it down, scale it up, whatever you need. And rotation. So sometimes objects they'll import and they're not really in a good orientation. So like a good example of that, I'll import another file real fast. So for example, this motor cover right here. So as you can see, there's a gap underneath there. In order to print that out, we would need supports, and we'll talk about supports here in just a second, but it would probably be easier just to change the rotation to where that way we eliminate the need for supports altogether. Now, of course, right now, if you notice, this is below the build area, and of course, our cab, it's off to the side. So if we wanted to fix that real fast, we could just come over here to the center and arrange button, and you can see it snaps it all back into the center. So anything you want to print has to be within this grid. Now, for our example, we'll just keep the one piece. Now, the next thing I want to check is the Edit Process Settings, and that's down here in the bottom left-hand corner. And there's a lot going on here, but really there's four main settings we want to look at. The first of which is going to be the print quality. Of course, fast is going to be the quickest, but there's probably going to be some quality loss. Whereas high is going to have great quality, but it's going to take a while. So depending on your time constraints, you may choose one over the other. So we'll just put this on fast. Now our infill, that's going to be how solid or how hollow the object is. So right here's this example, only 1% of the inside is infill. We can bump it up. Now it is completely solid at 100%. Now we find that 15 is a good number to start out with. It's going to have structure, and it's also not going to take forever. So that's probably where you want to start. But depending on the part that you're working with, you may want to increase or decrease that accordingly. Now, right next to this, we have settings for raft and support. So raft, that is something that will generate underneath of the print if it doesn't have a lot of, or it's useful if it doesn't have. It's useful if the piece does not have a lot of adhesion to the surface. Now, in our case, there's a lot of surface area touching the build plate, so really we wouldn't need a raft. But if you're working on something like a dog or something where it only has 4 legs touching the surface, you may want to include a raft. That's going to decrease the chance of that print slipping around after the fact and then ultimately failing. Now, right next to it, we have supports. So if there are any overhangs, you'll want to build supports up. That way, the printer has something to print upon. And if you notice, like here in the windows, we would definitely need supports. That way, these top bits, they don't droop down. Now, really, that's about it for the edit process settings. There are other settings down here for other aspects of the print job, but the settings that we find the most useful are, of course, the print quality, the infill, raft, and support. So at this point, I think we are good to go. So we'll come down here now to the bottom left-hand corner where it says Prepare to Print. And this will generate a preview of exactly what the print job is going to look like. Now, using the slider, we can actually see what the print job is going to look like layer by layer. Of course, you can see that infill right inside there. And as it builds up, There's some of the supports inside the window, and then there would be the finished piece. Now up here in the top left hand corner, you'll notice it gives us a build time of 4 hours and 26 minutes. So do always give yourself a bit of wiggle room. That way you're not in danger of losing the print because of closing time or an outstanding reservation following yours. And then once you're ready to print, you just hit the begin printing over USB button and you would be good to go. Thank you very much for watching.
Don't forget to click like and subscribe to our channel.